Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking. And I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, our very special guest is Patricia Crisp. Pat is a classical naturopath and specializes in healing. Her use of natural remedies is designed to support the body's innate wisdom and natural tendencies toward renewal and replenishment to achieve optimal health. Pat explains that our health reflects our unique life history, including our beliefs, habits, and emotional style. That the path to wellness is as personal as the circumstances that contribute to our lives. Pat focuses on identifying the root causes of her clients' symptoms and then tailors a specific protocol to enable her clients to work with their body's own innate self-healing intelligence, ultimately leading to wellness. I personally found the discussion with Pat to be extremely informative and very educational. During our talk, she spent considerable time explaining how Candida, which is found to be increasingly more pervasive within society, is a major contributor toward a myriad of health issues across the population. Pat kicks the interview off by taking us through how she overcame some very significant challenges in her own life to be where she is today, which is helping and healing humanity. Let's take a listen.
A little bit about my background. I came from a family with basically generational incest, and I was I don't want to say product. It's a little challenging now that I'm at this level of healing to describe. I used to say that my childhood was dysfunctional, and now I really kind of look at it as being challenged. But that's also reflective of my level of healing at this point. But I was raped by my father and brother when I was a child, a very young child. By the age of 11, I was suicidal, actively suicidal for about 10 years. I would go to bed at night and pray not to wake up and would be very angry when I did wake up. There was also physical abuse in my family. My oldest brother broke my ribs.
Wow.
I saw a lot of violence in my family at a very, very young age. So as I got older and became an adult, I realized that my life was, different than most. I understood that when I was a child. But I realized at that point that it was affecting my behavior. So I got married basically to get out of the house and moved to another state. My husband was from another state. And, of course, I was still in this wounded state, so my husband ended up being a drug addict, a love for cocaine that I didn't share. And we ended up getting divorced. And by that point, I was 28, and I really did understand that I was being challenged by how I grew up. That was actually what I attracted in other people. Up until that point, I pretty much trusted myself. After that, I decided I couldn't trust myself because I didn't know what normal was. I mean, normal to me was the real McCoys or Leave It to Beaver, because that was the opposite of what I lived. And not realizing that that was television and that's reality or whatever. But that is, at that point was when I started going on a journey of healing myself. And I read Louise L. Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, did all the little exercises. I did A Course in Miracles. I did that completely on my own. I really thought I was hot stuff. I began to read Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love, and I think I was about 32 at that time. It took me 3 years to get past the first page.
Wow.
Because even with the work that I had done with Louise L. Hay and the Course in Miracles, I still didn't love myself. I didn't like myself. I always, thought that there was something wrong with me, was the reason that I went through all this, and just a whole bunch of other things, not to go into a whole lot of detail about my background, because we could do 5 hours. But that's basically how I got into this. So I got a degree in elementary ed, got a degree in Soc, got a degree in psych. None of that helped. And I finally just said, I want to heal mind, body, spirit. Next thing I know, I'm studying the Kabbalah. I didn't even know what the Kabbalah was. I'm studying the Tree of Life. I'm studying sacred geometry. And then I got into the natural healing. But even as a child, I was really pretty sick. The stress was really weighed heavily on my health. I had asthma. I was on a inhaler and theophylline. I was had allergies. The doctor said he'd never seen anyone that was allergic to absolutely everything. I took 16 pills a day. I had spastic colitis. My colon would actually close. So I was taking phenobarbital every day just to keep everything kind of on an even keel and everything wouldn't shut down. And still, my life was still so stressful at times that they would put me in the hospital and totally sedate me just to keep my colon from closing. I have an extra loop that sits on my lungs, and I had an extra loop around my tubes. And then I had chronic tonsillitis. So with Louise L. Hay's book, it actually helped me to recognize the emotional root to all of those, which were absolutely on target. But it's also how I got rid of all of them. So I used her affirmations. I got rid of asthma. I got rid of allergies, tonsillitis. I took vitamin C, but and spastic colitis. So once I got rid of the people in my life, like my husband, and a couple other people, and did the affirmations, it really showed me just how much emotions can impact health. And people that I grew up with look at me now and they're like, wow, I can't believe you aren't taking these meds, you aren't sick, and da-da-da-da-da. And I will be 60 in a couple of weeks, and I'm healthier now than I ever was in my entire life. So once I started on this journey of healing me, then I started taking classes and getting certified and different things, and ended up getting my doctorate in naturopathy. And the reason that I did is because from my life experience, I understand the connection between the mind, body, spirit, and energy. And in order to heal, then you need to work on all four of those. Well, not need. I don't like to tell people what to do, but I found that in order for me to heal and totally be comfortable in me and stuff, I worked on all four of those. And naturopathy, the natural way, actually helped me to accomplish that.
Now, Pat, when we talk about naturopathy, some folks in the audience may understand what it is, and there are going to be others that really, they've heard the word, but they don't really know what a naturopath does. Could you maybe describe that a little bit?
Sure. I am a classical naturopath, meaning that I believe that the body can heal itself. If the body can flow and it can communicate, then it can heal itself. So basically, as a practitioner of naturopathy, what I do is I tap into a person's energy field. I want to see where the blockages are, what it's going to take to remove the blockages, get the body doing its own thing so that the body can heal itself. I am in the natural field, but I also do have respect for allopathic medicine, which is traditional doctors, because I tell my clients, if you have a broken arm, go to the doctor. Let him set it, because I can't set a broken arm, but I can give you something that is going to help it heal quicker and give you something for pain that you will not get addicted to. So ideally, even though I am a classical naturopath and I truly believe that the body can heal itself, there are times when I've told my clients, okay, you need to go see a medical doctor for this, let them handle this, and then I can help you with this.
Okay, and so that's good because you're bringing that balance, and it's excellent, in fact, because I know I speak to some folks and they're just so adverse to Western medicine, but the truth of the matter is there are some good things with Western medicine, and if you need help, you need to go there. So that's great. But let me just ask this question. You mentioned about tapping into the energy field, and how do you do that?
Yes. I do it a couple of ways. I had no idea. I am called a medical intuitive. I had no idea what that meant. I just know that since I was a young child, well, first of all, I was told that I have a very high IQ. The last time I've always had a high IQ, but I think it's this intuitiveness that actually increased my IQ. But as a child, I never thought that I had any common sense. Sure, I could sit and figure things out, but like common sense things, I was a little lacking. So I always thought that it was God's way of guiding me. So if there were things I didn't know, I would just ask, and the answers would come. So it wasn't until I was an adult that people started asking me, like, how do you know this? And I'm like, well, how do you not know?
Yeah. Okay.
And that was when I was married, I lived near Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I went to the racetrack for the first time, and So I just looked at the horses, and I won the trifecta, and I won every race. Well, for me, I didn't notice that. I just noticed, oh, good, I can, I'm running down, cheering my little horse on. So after a while, one of the guys that worked in the track was a friend of my husband's, and he started coming to the house, and he's like, can I take Patty to the track? Because he noticed that I always won. I could just look at things and know. So then I started having people calling me from tracks all over the country. We were going to win. And I just, give them the list, and I could tell. Even now, I can, if I don't watch I don't see a lot of movies. I love movies. I just don't get out as much as I would like to. I'm changing that. I'm bringing more balance here. But if the Academy Awards are on, I could basically look at the list and tell you who's going to win. So that, to me, is tapping into this energy field. I was raised Christian. My father was a Methodist minister. My godfather was a bishop in the United Methodist Church. So I was raised in the church. But then all these things were happening to me and all this stuff, and I just couldn't. It was never wrong. So I took a world religions class during my Soc degree, and I studied 7 of the top world religions. And I was doing my term paper on white and black magic in Africa. And halfway through my research, I said, wow, this is the same thing that Christianity is based on. When I started looking at all the religions, they basically have the same basic principles. So it totally changed my view on life. So my belief is that there is one creator, and man has found many ways to worship, and so I honor all religions. And in that, God, or the creator, is an energy. It's not a person. For me, it's an energy that is in everything. So that means, like, I teach some classes, like I teach dowsing classes and energy classes, and I tell my students, by the end of this class, I want you to understand and accept that the difference between this dining room table and my body is just the form that it takes. There is this energetic life force out here that is in everything. So as a child, I used to run into tables and I'd apologize. Just intuitively, I knew that everything had a life force. And so that's what I tap into, because that's our life force, our energy, our body. When we die, our bones and flesh disintegrate and go into the ground. But that life force is an energetic force, and it moves on to another realm. Now, where that goes, I don't know. I don't get into that because no one has come back and told me anything. My belief is that if I do the best that I can in this life, then wherever my spirit goes, it will be rewarded. So that's kind of how I used to believe in heaven and hell, but I also was convinced at 7 I was going to hell. So this is actually a lot better and a little more motivating for me. But that energetic force, it's just in everything. It's what gives everything life. And so with dowsing, I use a pendulum, and Einstein said everything is energy. And I said, well, taking it a step further, it means it's a frequency, and frequencies can be measured and manipulated. So I actually use a pendulum to measure and manipulate frequencies using dowsing.
Now, what do you do with the dowsing?
With dowsing, I can pretty much do anything. Right now, I call myself a ghostbuster. People will call me. They may have poltergeists or whatever in their houses, and I can just release it with the pendulum. But I can actually measure the frequency of disease. Raymond Grace is fantastic. If anyone wants to Google him, he's just wonderful. He has brought dowsing to the forefront. And he has little books that are very, very helpful. And Walt Whitman, I think is his name, that has the dowsing chart that I use. It's a friend of Raymond Grace's. But on this chart, there's actual frequencies. So disease, everything has a frequency. Disease is between 18 and 22 on this chart. So if I'm measuring my liver, I can see if it's in the perfect frequency, then there's no imbalances there. But if it's off, I can actually see to what degree it's off. I can also use dowsing to see whether it's in the cells or whether it's outside of the cells. So if there's a pathogen in the liver and it's in the cells, there's only certain modalities that penetrate the cells. Herbs is not one of them.
Okay.
Homeopathy does. So knowing, and I can just douse and see what's the level of homotoxicology. If it's 1 to 3, it's outside of the cells, and that will tell a person what modalities they can use to heal. And if 4 to 6 is inside the cells. So basically with dowsing, you can find out anything.
Now, when you have your clients come in and you talk to them about the fact that we are energetic beings and we talk about frequencies and vibrations, do you find that most clients are understanding, or do you have to give them a little bit of education to get their heads wrapped around what that means?
It's half and half. I also have a scan that I run on my clients. Peter Fraser, an Australian, he had a disease and chronic fatigue, and he couldn't heal himself, and neither could the medical doctors. So he actually went on a 25-year journey to heal himself. And what he did was he mapped the entire human body field, which is the 144,000 electrical pathways that control the body. So my scan actually kind of works like an MRI, and people put their fingers on it. It's like an apparatus. It's an oversized mouse, and it scans their human body field and then matches it against a perfect human body field that will allow for individual variation. On this scan, everything comes up: mental, physical, emotional, spirit, everything. I can look at organs, like it's color-coded. And it's designed to show the order that the body heals, because the body does have an order that it wants to heal in. And it's color-coded to show the root, because take arthritis, for example. People tell me, I have arthritis. Well, arthritis can be virus, it can be bacterial, it can be too much calcium, not enough calcium. It can be heavy metals. It can be diet, or a combination of the above. So for me and how I deal with my clients, I need to know the root. I want to find out what caused it. So I'm going to use all kinds of tools, my scan, dowsing, to find out what is the root to the arthritis, and then go from there. So with the scan, it comes up. So by the time I explain the scan, they pretty much know energy, because I'm basically measuring their energetic field. And then when it comes to dowsing, I explain to them, because I always put together, when I do a protocol, I want to make sure that it is in the perfect frequency. There, 0.5 on this chart is the perfect human frequency. So I want to make sure it's in that frequency. So I use a combination of my scan, the dowsing, and intuitively. And men are actually easier than women. Because men are funny. Because I'll just do it, and they're like, okay, I'm not sure what she did, but everything she told me, she was accurate, and it works. And that's, men sometimes tend to be much more goal-oriented than women. Women have a lot more questions. So it's actually easier with men than it is with women.
Interesting. Now, do you have to get into conversations with some folks? I know I do when I do some of my work with regard to what people are taking into their body, what they're ingesting that could very well be causing problems. And I'm talking about things like the fluoride in the water, the genetically modified foods, electromagnetic frequencies, and stuff like that. Do you get into that with your clients?
I do, because on my scan, there's one page that is nothing but environmental, so it will actually give the radiation, the types of radiation that the body does not want, that's in the body, all types of environmentals. It also goes into, there's another screen for nutrition, so I can see what vitamins and minerals our body is metabolizing, what it's not metabolizing, whether it's, carbs are being metabolized, whether there's lactose or gluten intolerance, all of that. Everything comes up in the scan, and then I get into that. And then Candida, which to me has at epidemic levels at this point in the country, and that's because, Candida has always been around, which is too much sugar, an overgrowth of sugar in the body. But I think once they allowed high fructose corn syrup into the food supply at the level that they did, it has become epidemic. And Candida can go everywhere. My scan shows that, and then I really get into diet and foods, and also explain to them that sugar is 1 molecule away from crack cocaine. And I said, just try to go 3 days without eating sugar. And then once I explain that sugar is honey, agave, all of that, plus all your carbs, I break it down. All the sugars, your carbs, and alcohol, if that is 50% or more of your diet, most likely you have candida.
What are some of the symptoms of candida, Pat?
Actually, there's quite, and I have a list right here because I just sent out an email to my clients, and just a little bit more information about the other things you asked about. GMOs, I send out information. I have an email list of over 500 people at this point, and I am continually sending out the latest research and information on genetically modified foods, EMF. Like in my house, I do not use Wi-Fi, and I have information on that. There are certain foods. Wheat is wheat is a problem in the food now. Most of the wheat is adulterated. All the corn in this country is genetically modified with the exception of organic corn. But then I also caution people about organic corn because you can also get parasites from organic corn. So one way to keep parasites from forming in the body is keeping everything moving. What you eat today should be coming out of your body tomorrow. And it shouldn't take longer than 24 hours because there's absolutely nothing that we eat that takes longer than 12 hours to process when your digestive tract. But some symptoms of candida are headaches, migraines, attention deficit, hyperactivity, mental fogginess, poor memory, chronic fatigue, numbness and tingling in extremities. Fibromyalgia, I'm always looking at candida. Diarrhea, constipation, bloating, acid reflux, intolerance to carbs and fibers. When someone has candida and it's been there long term, the person can also develop allergies to foods. Food sensitivities, asthma, allergies, scaly, itchy skin, vaginal discomfort, PMS, endometriosis, and infertility. Candida can also be passed between sexual partners. So if one has it, I put the other one on the candida diet as well. And when I'm looking at children, infants and toddlers with asthma, I'm looking at candida because it can be passed from the mother to the child. Diaper rash, cradle cap, impaired memory, brain fog, depression, slowed reflexes, anxiety, panic attacks. It decreases sensory acuity. It can make people crave alcohol, crave sugars, crave smoking, decrease sex drive. It also lowers the body's immunity response to yeast, but also to infection in the body. It can affect cellular metabolism. It can affect the kidney and the liver's ability to detox properly. Joint pain, aches and pains, peripheral nerves, and brain function. Those are all candida.
Now, Pat, does Western medicine test for candida, or is this something that essentially flies under the radar with Western medicine?
It depends on the doctor. Now, I have a niece, as a matter of fact, and she told me that she has systemic candida. Once it gets to that point, they will pick it up, but once you have systemic candida, it means it's throughout the entire body, and candida is extremely, extremely difficult to release from the body. Now, I had another child. The mother sent me a text a couple of weeks ago and said that her daughter had a rash. I already knew the daughter had candida and asthma, eczema, hasn't taken her off the sugar. And she's 3 years old. So I said, send me a picture. And I looked at it. I said, oh, yeah, that's eczema. I said, take her off the sugar. The grandmother was upset. She's like, oh, let's take her to the doctor. So I took her to the doctor. And the doctor says, well, maybe she was allergic to the strawberries you gave her the day before. And so I told the father, I said, take her off the sugar. What else did I have him? I had him give her, wild oregano oil, because I doused in wild oregano oil. I said, just put it on your skin and rub it in, because there was no way she was going to drink wild oregano oil at 3 years old. He said it started going away immediately.
Amazing.
So he stayed home and kept her home from the grandmother would babysit during the week. So he stayed home with her, and the next day it started clearing up. But he asked the doctor, and the doctor had no idea what candida was. So there are some doctors out here that are aware and some that aren't.
You have to just bear with me here, maybe my own ignorance, but is it considered a fungus?
It is a fungus that mutates.
Okay.
It's a fungus that will mutate to, it can mutate to a parasite. or to yeast. And that's what makes it more challenging now, because even the allopathic medicines, Candida now has become resistant to many of them, and even the traditional with a holistic. So the diet for it is absolutely horrendous. I mean, the do not eat list has expanded.
I was just going to ask you that. What is the diet like? Doesn't sound like you can eat too much.
And no peanuts, no peanut butter, no pistachios, but you can eat other nuts. No alcohol in all forms, including mouthwash. You don't want alcohol in mouthwash. Coffee, black tea, this is all the no list. Coffee, black tea, cider, root beer. Aged, moldy, and processed cheeses. Processed, dried, smoked, and pickled meats, which include smoked salmon, pickled herring, all sausages, bacon, hot dogs, pastrami, bologna, sandwich meats, salami, corned beef, and pickled tongue. And just to interject here, I have a girlfriend that's a vegan, and she has Candida, and she told me, she says, I'm craving sausages, and she doesn't eat meat. And I said, that is because the Candida, the other aspect of Candida, it will make you crave everything that it needs to survive. And then anything in a package, so anything canned, bottled, packaged, boxed, refined sugar, refined flour, chemicals, preservatives, coloring, yeast, whether it's baker's yeast, brewer's yeast, Engevita, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right because I've never used it, or Torula, or any other nutritional yeast. Any baked goods raised with yeast, such as rolls, breads, crackers, bagels, pastries, and muffins. All vinegars, white vinegar, red wine vinegar, balsamic, apple cider, mayonnaise, commercial salad dressing, ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, steak sauce, barbecue sauce, shrimp sauce, soy sauce, mustard, pickles, pickled veggies, green olives, but you can use black olives that have been packed in water, or olive oil, and actually Candida does not like coconut oil nor olive oil. Relishes, horseradish, mincemeat, chili sauce. Eliminate all mushrooms, including Chinese mushrooms. All sugars, which include white sugar, brown sugar, honey, maple syrup, corn syrup, molasses, date sugar, turbinado, raw sugar, amasaki, rice syrup, sorghum. The hidden sugars to watch for: sucrose, fructose, maltose, lactose, glycogen, glucose, mannitol, sorbitol, galactose, monosaccharides, polysaccharides, and then all fruits, whether they're frozen, canned, dried, and all fruit juices. And it wasn't until I took this class, I was online, I took a webinar with medical doctors, chiropractors, and naturopaths from all over the country, and yeast was the topic. And I hadn't even thought about it, but you know, they spray fungicides on many of the fruits and melons. And
right.
Fungicide is fungus, which can create yeast.
Interesting.
So not only is it the sugar that's in the fruits and the melons, but it's also the fungicide that they're sprayed with. So that's the no list. Then I also, if my clients go on it, then I will also go through just a food list, because some foods they have developed an allergy to because of the Candida. And I just had a couple in my office last week, and both of them went on the diet for 6 weeks, and the husband said he thought I was joking about how addicting sugar was. He actually went back to smoking cigarettes. He said after 3 days he could not believe how much he was craving sugar. But he also said, I do have to say, I feel so much better. And he's able to eat some foods now that he couldn't eat before he got rid of the Candida.
Very interesting. And it sounds like the short list of what you can eat, we can write on a Post-it pad.
Yeah, you know, it's actually good forms of protein, basically all the leafy green, green vegetables and stuff, and then good fats. So, and if you're looking to balance hormones, good fats and proteins are good, and oils. The good fats and the oils, because it doesn't like that. So yeah, it is. And I tell people, it's ugly. Okay, this is not an easy diet. I actually went on it myself. I was like, oh, okay. But it is doable, and the rewards really are. People are amazed because sugar, it eats the red blood cells. So many people come to me anemic, and their doctors don't know why. It's because of the Candida. The sugar is eating the red blood cells. So it decreases the oxygen in the body. So it affects respiratory. It can also make you anemic, and it eats calcium. Sugar eats calcium. I tell people, joint pain, stop eating gluten and stop eating sugar for 30 days and tell me how your joint pain is.
Wow.
And many times that's all they need.
And it's very prevalent, you're right, because I'm not an expert on it. I'm getting very educated here with our discussion, but I've been reading a lot about Candida on natural health sites, and it's very, very pervasive.
Yes, yes. And I think that when high fructose corn syrup, which no longer is, the FDA in November, I think it was, of 2011, ruled that they could not advertise high fructose corn syrup as sugar anymore. But by that time, it's pretty much done its damage, and it's still in a lot of items. So high fructose corn syrup, from my knowledge, has mercury in it, which is a neurotoxin, and it has additives to make people crave sugar. So it's great for selling products, but it's not good for the health of America. And then it's also Candida is tough. I mean, it's really tough because you have to get the Candida down to a manageable level because the body needs a certain amount of bad bacteria to balance. So it's a matter of getting it down to a level that the body can handle. And then the other part to that is sugar addiction. Because when someone has Candida, most likely they are also addicted to sugar, and that's a totally different thing. So I tell people, stay on the diet until you can walk into a store and not buy that bag of M&Ms or whatever it is that you can't go into a store and not buy.
How about artificial sweeteners, Pat, like aspartame or sucrose? Now, I know those products unto themselves are not good for you, but are they contributors to Candida also, or no?
They do. Well, some of them are carcinogens, and then some of them contribute to Candida as well, and then some of them actually can give you, can actually increase weight. So it actually does the opposite. As far as a substitute, xylitol made from birch is an excellent substitute, and your dentist will love you because it really does help as far as cavities and healthy mouths. And then but be careful because they make a lot of it from corn, and if it's made from corn, make sure that it is not genetically modified, that it is organic corn. And then stevia. Be careful with stevia, though, because some of the stevias add carbs to it. So I always educate my clients on reading labels. I had a woman sitting in front of me, and she was eating this protein bar, and I turned it over. It had 3 soys and 5 sugars in it, and she thought it was healthy. I said, no, start reading. Ingredients, Centrum Silver. I said, read the ingredient. There's 2 starches and 3 sugars in Centrum Silver, vitamins.
Very interesting. How about gluten? We're seeing more and more people now are being diagnosed as gluten intolerant.
Yeah. I think the reason that there's more gluten intolerant is because of the chemicals that we are putting as a country, that we are putting in the food, the air, and the water. And the body's just not made to break all that stuff down. And then at this point, and I have some articles some research that I send out, at this point, much of the gluten, the grains are adulterated. So they are genetically modified. And there's nothing, the body is made for organic matter. It's not made for inorganic matter. So it puts a strain on the body, and which over a period of time can begin to break the body down.
This applies to pets also. I'll give you a little story. We have 2 dogs, and Charlie and Bella would every once in a while, especially Bella, she would suffer from hot spots, and we would scratch our heads as to what was causing this. Of course, you go to a vet, they don't really know. They give you some topical solutions, try this, try that. You know what the answer was? The answer was to move away from the dog foods that they're selling in the supermarkets and to go to a grain-free, all-natural dog food.
Yep.
And when we did that, the improvement in the dog's coat, the hot spots all went away. The dogs were just healthier. They felt better. You could just tell. They weren't, the scratching stopped. That's the other thing. They used to scratch incessantly. And as soon as we got rid of all that old dog food and we got the grain-free, natural dog food, everything cleared up, and the dogs are two happy campers today.
Right. It's amazing. I work on pets too, so I've seen all kinds. I've had pets with MRSA and got rid of it. There's a product, you can only buy it online. I haven't seen it in a store. It's actually called Silver Sol, and it's a colloidal silver that has been attached to water, and it is the only colloidal silver in the country that is patented by the government. And it's really it's patented to kill 143 viruses, including MRSA. It's patented to kill malaria in 5 days. And of course, when the MRSA outbreaks were going on, yes, it was patented then. But I've used that on pets and gotten rid of things. But it is important, look at the commercials. I tell people, corporate America, I do not agree with all of corporate America, with their policies and procedures as far as operating in this country. But I said, pay attention to them, because believe me, they know the latest research. Look at the commercials that they have for dog food now.
Yeah.
All people have to do is watch corporate America. They don't advertise soy anymore because they know what soy does to the body. They don't advertise flax. They don't, just pay attention to the commercials.
Yeah, it's what they're not talking about, right?
They aren't talking about it, so it's really interesting. But many times, people will hear things and it sticks in their brain, and then when that's, changed or the research doesn't prove it true, they still have it in their brain. Fish is something that I talk to a lot as well, because right now I just had an upgrade in my scan and nuclear radiation is showing up. So I'm getting at least 2 out of 3 people coming in with nuclear radiation field showing up. And the main culprit is the fish from the tsunami in Japan that has gone into the water. So kelp products, fish products, fish oils. People need to be very, very careful when it comes to that, because a lot of them are contaminated with the radiation from the tsunami. So wild, W-I-L-D, it's pretty much purist, and troll, T-R-O-L-L. Those are baby fish. They've been in the water less time to pick up less radiation. But you see wild caught everywhere. So people are buying wild caught thinking that it's a healthy fish, and it's not.
Interesting. So you're seeing an uptick in the radiation in the fish from the Fukushima accident. Yes,
definitely. Nuclear radiation shows up in my scan, and I'm seeing it. 2 out of 3 people are coming in and I had a woman that, it was interesting. She's a vegan, and she had a baby, and I scanned the baby. The baby was a week old, and the baby had nuclear radiation. Come to find out, the mother was eating kelp chips while she was pregnant. So that's something that I've been warning people. There is a company that I buy my fish and seafood products online, vitalchoice.com, and so far that's been, testing very well in my body, because I run scans just to see what's going on in my body.
Check yourself?
Definitely, and what's picking up and whatever and stuff. But that wild caught, that's not the healthiest way. Wild, just plain wild. And that's an example of people hearing something or seeing something and not really reading or listening to the whole thing, and they hear part of it. And corporate America is good at what they do. They are good at making money, so they, sometimes bank on people not doing their due diligence or not paying fully attention to what they're hearing or reading, and they're making money, but in the meantime, America's health is not the healthiest.
How about like wild tuna? Like I'll go to Kroger and I'll go to the organic section and they'll have tuna and it will say wild tuna. I'm assuming that we have to be careful of anything that they are taking out of, especially the Pacific.
Right. So I get mine from Vital Choice there in Alaska, and that's where they're fishing right off the coast of Alaska. They freeze it, and they send it to you in coolers on dry ice. So it's never thawed either, and that's the other thing that I caution my clients. When you go into Whole Foods or some of these other stores, most likely that fish has been thawed. You do not want to refreeze it, because then you run the risk of freezer burn as well.
Okay.
So I teach dowsing, too, because all you have to do is sit there and douse and ask what's the frequency of that food. I test everything, because everything that you put on or in your body is either going to increase or decrease your life force. It's just a degree. But everything, and there's nothing in between that. I mean, everything that everyone puts on or in their body is either going to increase or decrease their life force.
Yeah, it's so true. And I have these discussions with folks also, and I try to explain to them that anything you're putting into your body that you shouldn't be putting into your body then has to spend enormous amounts of energy trying to figure out what to do with this stuff.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's energy that's wasted, because if you weren't doing that, your body would have much better places in which to apply that energy. But, I don't know if you find it, I'm sure you do. Sometimes some folks, though, they do not listen. They just go about their way, and they'll continue to be happy complaining about why they don't feel well, or why they have pain, or why they feel foggy or depressed or fatigued, whatever it may be. So I don't know. I'm sure you run into those types of situations as well.
One thing is candida. I always tell people, I laugh because the emotional root. Oh, well, that's the other thing. I explain to my clients that every disease has an emotional root to it, and every organ. This is my belief, and I mean, in this field, it's pretty standard. And every organ has an emotional belief. So guys think I can read their mind. No, I can't read your mind, but I can read your body. So you tell me all the physical ailments you've had in your life, and I can tell you what your life was like. Pretty much it takes 12 to 18 months for a trauma to manifest as disease in the body. So if someone comes to me with diabetes, and it started this year, I'm going to ask them what happened between the summer of 2012 and the beginning of 2013. And 9 times out of 10, they immediately can come up with something. I said, well, that's what created the diabetes. That's the emotional root. So I do a lot of explaining with my clients. My initial consultation is a minimum of 3 hours. My follow-ups are usually an hour and a half to 2 hours, because
Wow.
I do want my clients to understand their body so that they can make informed decisions about what to do with their body. And just so that they can see mentally, physically, spiritually, and energetically what's going on with their body, and by the time they leave, they really do understand their body. But going back to candida, the emotional root is resistance. So when people have candida, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, candida wants to stay, so it makes you crave all the foods that it needs to stay, and then it creates emotional or mental resistance. So some people that are stubborn, I'll just look, and if candida comes up, I'm like, okay, and I just, I tell them, I said, these are what I'm suggesting, and da-da-da-da-da, and I am real about things. I don't ever tell anyone things. If it's challenging, I tell them, listen, this is, this is ugly. This is a challenging, and, and whatever. And even healing, I tell people, healing is wonderful when you get to a level where you can actually breathe, and this journey is fun. But sometimes it's not always fun getting there. Yeah. And I let people know that. I said, it is a journey, and it's not always fun. But I don't believe that pain is motivating. So the modalities that I use, I specifically research so that there's the least amount of discomfort along this journey, because it's just not motivating to me. Pain is not motivating.
It's interesting, you had mentioned that the candida actually creates demand in order to survive and to live and to stay within the body. It's almost a little creepy.
It is. It's one of the most challenging things. And of course, sugar, although the government just changed, they have changed the category that they place sugar in. They've linked it to just about every major disease now, and they're actually going to be changing the guidelines for sugar. So I'm like, yay!
Yeah.
Baby steps. We are, the research is there. They're even saying that cancer is going to increase 50% in the next 10 years, I think it is. So they said they're now going to look at preventative medicine, which is our field. This is my field, is what they consider preventative medicine, which is great. I think the last time I actually looked at the research, I think the United States was like 8th or 9th in the cost of healthcare, and we were in the world, and we were like 38th or 39th in the quality of healthcare. So the system isn't working.
No, the
well.
system is not working too well. That's exactly right.
Very well. So I am the eternal optimist. I'm still holding out, and yay for the little baby steps. But we are making baby steps simply because the research is, it just can't be disputed. And looking at the quality of health, and as a baby boomer, we've pretty much changed history all our lives. Now we are the older generation, and we want to maintain our health and vitality, as we have when we were anti-establishment back in the 60s and 70s. That is not going to happen with the current, with the healthcare at traditional normal healthcare. So I think that's part of what's driving this as well. And then the younger people, they're like, I don't think so. We don't, we don't want to live like this, and there's got to be a better way and whatever. So things are changing slowly but surely, and I do hold out hope. And ideally, for me, the two, the allopathic and naturopathic working together, is the perfect healthcare system that will bring about actual health and healing, will improve the quality of health and healing in this country.
Yeah, working together would be good because it's been so lopsided for so long.
Yes.
The other question I had for you, Pat, and if you don't get into this, that's fine. Just tell me, Mike, I don't get into this. But have you ever gotten into vitamin B17 or Laetrile with regard to its connections into helping with cancer?
Yes, I have used it. I actually do have a company, an herbal company, that sells it. But what I do, and I always do, is I will test a person. I actually have it as apricot seeds, but I always test people. So I will test to see what a person needs. So whatever because their body tells you what it needs. And so when I run my scan, it's telling me what the body needs and the order that it needs it in. And when I dowse, it's telling me, the body's telling me. So in other words, I'm not blocked by what's out there. I go by what the body needs. So I have I have about 5, 6 companies that I use that they only sell to practitioners, and I cannot sell them online. And so I'll just go through their products to see what the person needs, because that's how I deal with me. I had cancer. I had uterine cancer, and I treated myself. And I actually, at that time, I did kinesiology, and it said, yes, you can do it. And twice, I have to say, I got scared, and it would say, no, you don't have to go to the doctor. No, you don't have to go to, the hospital. But it took me 2 years. And what I did was, every single month, I tested every single product that I sold. Whatever came up, yes, I took it. So I can't give someone a protocol. I don't have protocols. What I do is I follow the body.
Okay, I understand. The reason why I'm asking the question is I've seen that it has been essentially taken out of the diet, just like iodine has been essentially taken out of the diets, and people are deficient in iodine, which is very helpful to the immune system. And so are you seeing these deficiencies?
I see deficiencies, and I also see the body needing it as a tool for healing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's not a deficiency, it may need more.
I see.
What it's getting. So I've seen it both ways.
I see. Okay.
To go back to, you were talking about healing, I usually have my clients either bring in a list or email me a list of all the supplements that they are taking, and then I dowse. Because I am a firm believer, if the body only needs 5 things, and I'll tell people, it's not that the products are not good, but if your body doesn't need it, then your body is wasting energy because it still has to process the other 5 things that you're giving it, where it could be using and utilizing that energy for healing. So I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. And so my clients now, they'll just say, and then I said, and then a month from now, email me a list and I'll test and see, because the body's changing. Whether it's for the better or for the worse, but the body is constantly changing, and what it needs changes. And my philosophy is to get people off of everything. Even no one should be on 50 supplements. No one should be on an herb for 4 or 5 years. Herbs are made to heal the body, and if you're on an herb for 4 or 5 years, it's not doing its job. You need to check and find something else. So I'm a firm believer in that. Minerals, that's another thing because, the ground is getting so depleted now that even eating healthy, it's a little challenging to get the minerals that we need and in their proper proportion. And then, the typical American lifestyle is a little stressful, so we kind of eat some things. But I eat certified organic. There's nothing, the only thing in a package in my house are some teas. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's about it. I do have some stevia for people that need sugar, and I have a thing of honey that I don't use, but a client gave it to me, so if I have guests that want honey. But I've been eating certified organic fruits and vegetables since the 80s.
Wow. Okay, so 30 years.
Yes, so I don't, and that's what I eat. So, and I can tell the difference. I do go to restaurants. I'm very particular about what restaurants I eat in, and then certain foods that I will eat in the restaurants and stuff. But I'm very, very cautious and have been eating certified organic because my body reacted to insecticides and pesticides back in the 80s. And my doctor was from Austria, and she recognized it immediately. I had a Granny Smith apple that wasn't organic. She said, "Oh, what'd you eat?" And I told her, and she says, "Okay, you have to eat certified organic." So that's what I did.
It's interesting. I've only changed my diet significantly organic also going back about 2 or 3 years ago. Before that, I was eating everything that everybody else was eating, and I was paying the price for it. And then when I changed my diet, all of a sudden, all those things, little pains, especially the fatigue aspect of it, went away.
Yep.
So, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if you're eating all the other junk, you feel like you got to go to sleep, take a nap, whatever it may be. And as soon as I got rid of all that and I started eating right, I no longer had that sluggishness or that fatigue at, midday.
Sometimes I'll have clients and they'll just, they'll call me on the phone, they're talking about it, and I said, you know what, just stop sugar and gluten and lactose. I'll take them off of lactose for a month and then call me back and tell me how you feel. Because sometimes that's all it takes. And nothing against cows. It's just that all the stuff that they're giving cows now, and I tell people here in North Carolina, there's a lot of goat farmers, and I don't know how many people know because I didn't know. It was years before I found out that the goat milk is the universal milk. Every mammal, mammal, on this earth can drink goat's milk. So there's a lot of organic goat farmers here in North Carolina, and I tell people, I said, call a goat farmer up and go and get goat milk or goat product, because many times when people are lactose intolerant, they can eat the goat milk, drink the goat milk, eat the goat cheese, eat the goat yogurt, and it won't bother them.
Okay, this is very good to know. I just wrote that down for myself. Well, Pat, this has been really fabulous. Really, this is very, very educational. And, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, that's it. My philosophy, what drives me, a friend of mine just asked me the other day, he said, why do you do what you do? And I said, because I firmly believe that everyone, no exception, was put here on this earth to enjoy this journey. So my goal is to help as many people as I can enjoy this journey.
Excellent. And your website is patcrisp.com? Yes, and Pat, I would love to have you come back at another time because there's so much to talk about. And as I mentioned, it's very, very educational.
Okay, thank you. I would love to. This was fun.
It is fun, isn't it?
Thank you for thinking about me and inviting me. This really was fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will certainly have you back again.
All righty. You have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye, Pat.
And that concludes my discussion with Patricia Crisp, and I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Pat's website can be found at www.patcrisp.com. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and for visiting the blog, The Sage of Quay. Also, please take a listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia, by heading to laboroflovemusic.com. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.